Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and welcome to another bodybuilding news episode. Now, we've got a lot of interesting stories to talk about today because there's a lot of interesting things going on in bodybuilding right now. So the first story I wanted to get to, I wanted to give a shout out to my buddy James O'Neill. And James O'Neill is the wood artist that made that original Arnold Schwarzenegger sculpture out of wood. I did a couple of videos about it last year. It was showcased at the Arnold Classic. Well, recently, James made another bodybuilding statue, a dedication to Franco Columbu. Now, James has been working on that statue for the past couple months, but finally he has brought it to completion. And I wanted to show you guys the final product of the Franco Columbu Physique sculpture. This is a front lat spread sculpture. I think the detail in this is amazing, just like the Arnold Schwarzenegger one. And I think James really did a phenomenal job capturing the essence of Franco's physique in this sculpture. And I do believe this will be showcased at the Arnold Classic 2020, along with the Arnold Schwarzenegger sculpture from last year. So if you guys are going to be at the 2020 Arnold Classic, make sure you stop by James's booth. Make sure you stop by my Nick Strength and Power booth as well. Now, next up in the news, I think this is a pretty big deal in bodybuilding news in general and also Redcon1 news. So Cedric Mcmillan has become the newest member of the Redcon1 team. Cedric Mcmillan this weekend signed to Redcon1. And honestly, he's probably one of the biggest names that Redcon has had since Dallas McCarver. Now, Luke Sando is a phenomenal bodybuilder, but Cedric is a guy that's won the Arnold Classic. He's been in the conversation as being a guy that could possibly win the Olympia if he ever brought his 110% conditioning. Cedric is a guy that's just got a phenomenal, larger-than-life personality. He's always smiling. His victory speech at the Arnold Classic when he won was one of the best victory speeches I think ever given on a bodybuilding stage. He's a military guy. He's still active military while being a competitive pro bodybuilder. And I think that goes really well with the Redcon1 theme of supporting the troops and the military theme, obviously, of the name Redcon1. And keep in mind, the past couple shows that Cedric has done, he's done very well. And he's won a couple shows that he didn't even need to win. He won a show and qualified and then kept competing and kept beating guys even after qualifying for the Olympia. So Cedric has kind of proven thus far he can still get the ball rolling on conditioning. He can still look good. He can still beat some big-name guys. And he is on the list for the 2020 Arnold Classic. So he is going to be at that Arnold this year. And as a former Arnold Classic champion, you got to make the argument he's one of the favorites to potentially win the 2020 Arnold Classic. So I'm excited to see Cedric in that lineup representing Redcon1. And I'm excited to see all the things that Cedric is going to be able to do with Redcon in the future. Now, Redcon also picked up a major female athlete signing this year, or towards the end of this year, Shanique Grant, who is a two-time Miss Physique Olympia. So Redcon1 making some major signings here towards the end of 2019. Next up in the news, we have a big interview and some bold statements from Ronnie Coleman. So Valuetainment, which is the same organization that interviewed Dorian Yates, where a lot of infamous statements came from Dorian about the 2019 Mr. Olympia, about Brandon Curry, comparing today's modern bodybuilders to the crop of bodybuilders in the 90s. And now, 8-time Mr. Olympia Ronnie Coleman has gone on record with Valuetainment as well. So there's a lot of interesting parts about this interview if you want to go check it out on the Valuetainment YouTube channel and watch the whole thing. But to me, the comparison between 90s bodybuilders and modern bodybuilders was the main talking point of this interview, or one of the main points of contention here. Basically, the same question was brought up with Dorian Yates about the comparison between 90s bodybuilders and modern bodybuilders. And essentially, Ronnie Coleman agreed with Dorian here, stating, this is a direct quote from Ronnie, "Conditioning is not the same. Look at those guys. I mean, nobody looks like they've been on a diet, like a real diet. Nobody looks in shape. They look okay, you know. You put them next to guys like me, Flex, Kevin, and Sean, guys like that, you're like, whoa, that's a big difference. They wouldn't beat any of the guys I faced." So Ronnie gave this statement after the interviewer basically showed him a picture of a lot of the top modern bodybuilders today. And they asked Ronnie if he agreed with the past interview with Dorian Yates that Brandon Curry couldn't even stand in the top 6 if he competed in the 90s. And Ronnie went even further to say, essentially looking at this picture of all these top guys, that none of them really held a candle conditioning-wise to the guys from the 90s. So a pretty bold statement from Ronnie. It's got a lot of people talking. I think it's interesting. I think there's a lot of older bodybuilders And Ronnie, you couldn't even consider to be an old school bodybuilder because he competed in the mid 2000s. But a lot of guys commenting on the modern era of bodybuilding that competed in a different era and stating they don't like what they see. And personally, I agree with that, and I think that's a good thing. Conditioning has been lacking in recent years. You can't make that argument that it hasn't. Conditioning and a lot of the top guys, there's been a lot of guys we've been complaining about. We love their physiques, but they're just not coming in conditioned. And we've said that about a lot of the top guys the past couple of years. And it's almost hard to look at a 90s Olympia lineup and say this guy wasn't in shape. You're looking at anybody within the top 10 or the top 6. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about Ronnie Coleman's statements comparing 90s bodybuilders and modern bodybuilders in the comment section below. I really want to hear what the opinion is on YouTube and on social media, whether it contrasts or reflects Ronnie Coleman's statement here. Now, next up in the news, this is a little bit more of a pop culture bodybuilding story. If you guys follow bodybuilding YouTube channels and you've been following them for a while, maybe let's say going back to 2011, 2012, some of the early channels that existed back then. If you guys have been watching YouTube for a long time and bodybuilding content like I have, you guys might remember a YouTuber named Matt Ogus and a YouTuber named Chris Jones, Physiques of Greatness, Legends of Aesthetics, Vince G, the Swole Nerd. Well, Matt Ogus, recently put out a video on his channel titled A Challenge to Chris Jones. And essentially in that video, he challenges Chris Jones to compete in a natural bodybuilding competition against him in 2020. Now, this was something that was exciting for me to see because I remember back in, I guess you could call it the golden era of bodybuilding YouTube when these first couple of channels were popping up. Back in like 2012, I believe it was, they originally were going to do a bodybuilding show against each other. This was like 8 years ago. And everyone was excited for it. The viewers, the subscribers, everybody wanted to see their two favorite YouTubers go head-to-head on a bodybuilding stage. And that was the plan. And if I remember correctly, Matt Ogus went through with the show. He went ahead and did it. And Chris Jones did not do the show. So we didn't get to end up seeing that matchup. So now Matt Ogus wants to bring back this challenge and try again in 2020. And that is something I personally want to see. So I wanted to make a video about it on my channel and get you guys to tell these guys, comment in the comment section below if you want to see Ogus versus Chris Jones in 2020, because I certainly want to see it as a bodybuilding fan, as a natural bodybuilder, as something I would enjoy watching. Let them know you want to see it. Specifically, let Chris Jones know you want to see it. So next up in the news, we have a physique update from Keone Pearson, weighing in at 200 pounds. Now, as you guys may or may not know, Keone Pearson has been a top competitor in classic physique for the past year or so. Now he's switching over and moving up to the 212 category in 1 year. So this posing video that he posted weighing 200 pounds, he says we got 1 year to grow into 212. We're going to do this right and take our time. So I want to know what your guys' opinion is on Keone switching from 212 to classic physique, or rather classic physique to 212, because I actually think that Keone had a great classic physique. I think his structure was very, very good for the classic physique division. I think he will be good in 212. I don't think he's going to do bad in 212. I think he is going to be able to put on enough size to be competitive there. But I do think the way he was built and the structure that he had and the flow that he had to his physique was suited very well for classic physique. Personally, I do think it's going to translate well to 212, but I preferred him in classic. Now, also, I did want to give Keone a little bit of a shout-out here because I know his original Instagram account was hacked. So if you guys want to follow Keone Pearson, it's at Keone_Pearson. His old account was hacked at 155,000 followers. So make sure you go over there and follow Keone. All right, now, speaking of classic physique, we talked about the list of men's open bodybuilders that would be competing in the 2020 Arnold Classic. These lists were recently released by the Arnold promoters. Now, we do have the list of the Arnold Classic physique competitors as well as the men's open bodybuilding competitors. So I wanted to give you guys the list of classic physique competitors that you can expect to see at the Arnold Classic. Now, I did speak with one of the promoters of the event, and he said they're still going to be adding and sending some invitations for Classic, so this might not be the final list. Because when I saw this list, it did look a little bit thin to me compared to other classic physique shows, because typically classic physique, whether it's pro or amateur, is stacked with competitors. It's got tons of guys competing, and here you really don't have that many. So in the Arnold Classic Physique lineup, you have Santi Aragon, you have Alex Combernero, who is also a Redcon1 athlete, you have Toto Jong, you've got Klaus Drescher, Hyung Ju, Steve Lorius, Abner Logan, Orlando Maldon, Ricky Moten, Abtin Shakarabi, and Jason Strahan. I feel like there's always some really interesting names in the classic physique category for me to screw up in a video, but I think the two main guys that you should be looking at here, maybe three, Alex Combernero, Steve Lorius, and Santi Aragon, to me are the three biggest names that really stand out in this lineup. But it should be an interesting competition, and yet again, in 2020, 212 is still absent from the Arnold Classic, so I think it's a pretty permanent change that 212 bodybuilding will not be a part of the Arnold Classic anymore, so kind of sad to see it go. It looks like that's going to be a permanent change as far as 212 not being a part of the Arnold. And who knows how many more years 212 is going to be a part of the Olympia. Now, next up in the news, you have your 2019 World's Strongest Man engaging in a very high-profile collaboration with Rob Gronkowski. So who would have thought we would have seen this coming? So Martin Licis did a workout with Rob Gronkowski and ended up picking Gronk up and overhead squatting him. So I thought this was pretty cool. Typically, I think you see a lot of really mainstream collaborations more often in the strongman category than you do in bodybuilding. I think you see a lot of these guys like Brian Shaw and Eddie Hall doing these big TV shows and celebrity collaborations that you don't typically see a pro bodybuilder doing. And I think it's kind of cool to see these crossovers like this. So I just wanted to throw in a quick shout out to Martins Licis in this video. So the next story that I have for you guys today is something I get tagged in pretty frequently. A lot of people always send me this guy's pictures. Andrew Jacked, the friend of Larry Wheels, is apparently doing his first bodybuilding show ever in the NPC, and it's going to be an Ohio show in 2020. I actually live in Ohio, so maybe it'll be a show that I can go to and actually film. But a lot of people tend to tag me in Andrew's post here because he is a guy, again, that is apparently completely an amateur, never competed in his life, and obviously, if you look at the photos, has a very impressive physique. So a lot of people evidently are looking forward to seeing him compete. I guess it's going to be exciting to see what he actually looks like on stage compared to how he looks in these Instagram posts. So enough people have been tagging me in this that I wanted to put it in a video, so shout out to Andrew Jacked. And shout out to Larry Wheels as well. That's my boy. Now, finally in the news, a lot of people have been tagging me in this as well. And this is a celebrity transformation that has been really blowing a lot of people's minds here. So Kumail Nanjiani posted on his Instagram page a picture, an after picture, of his physique preparing for his role as Kingo Sunan in Marvel's The Eternals, which will come out in 2020. So for this movie role, Kumail has essentially completely transformed his physique and doesn't really look anything like he used to. He's never really been a guy that's known for being a guy with a ripped physique at all. That's not really been his go-to for a character. So a lot of people were asking me if I thought that this was a natural transformation. And honestly, I'll give my opinion here. I do not think it was a natural transformation. You guys have to understand, when you're talking about Marvel money, and the stakes that are on the line, and the standards that Marvel has. So if they want you to be jacked for a role, if you got to be jacked for a superhero role with Marvel, you're going to do whatever it takes to get jacked for that role because you don't want to lose that Marvel money. So I'm sure he had an intense training regimen and a pretty intense diet, and I'm sure they hired him a trainer for this role. And I'm sure that trainer probably also said, and this is just my opinion, you're going to have to take this, this, and this to get in this shape by this time for this role to have that look. I guess if you want that Marvel money, you got to say yes to that. And really, I'm just basing that on the rapid transformation of his physique, just the sheer factor of how fast it was, and also the extreme vascularity that he appears to have in these after photos just isn't really something that looks natural to me. But congratulations to him on that transformation nonetheless, because I think it's always a good thing when you have a celebrity make a transformation like this, because it always inspires someone to get in shape or go to the gym. So that wraps it up for the video today, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. That is the news for the week. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.